Hi book friends, it's Kim, the lifelong reader. Welcome back. This is Recent Reads, where I tell you about the books that I'm currently reading and discuss ones that I've just finished up. So the first book I want to talk to you about that I'm currently reading is the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This one was released in 2022 and it is a contemporary mystery, but it also has a little bit of thriller horror vibe going on so far as well. So in this novel, we are following Shay Collins, and she's just a normal everyday person that works in a doctor's office. She has a little bit of a mysterious backstory. We don't get a whole lot of details about it, but we do get a little inkling at first that she has someone she calls her perpetrator. And it seems like she was either the victim of a crime or the victim of a potential crime. And this person is up for parole in 6 months. So that tells us that they were charged and found guilty. So we don't know a lot about what's going on there other than those details. So there is a little bit of mystery going on there. And she has kind of a unique quality about her as a main character. She does some cold case file sleuthing, and she is doing that via some articles that she writes for a blog. She has a fairly good online following doing this, and it's something that she took up after whatever her incident was that occurred a number of years ago. So Shay has a partner in research, and that is a former police officer named Michael. It seems like he's in the same area as her, but they've never met in person. They do all of their exchanges through like file exchanges, phone calls, emails, different things like that. So it seems like he's going to be a pretty important part of the story too, as a side character. And as the story opens, Shay goes to work one day and she's working in the doctor's office, and she sees a woman sitting in the waiting area that looks strikingly familiar. And through a series of events, she puts together that that woman is Beth Greer. And Beth is someone that she's actually done a profile on for her website, for her cold case website. And Beth was charged with a crime back in the 70s. She was acquitted eventually of this crime, but it was a series of homicides that mysteriously stopped when Beth was arrested and actually never continued. And also no one else was ever charged with them. No one else came forward saying they had done that. So all signs point to something weird going on there. Like the series of crimes stopped when Beth was arrested. So Shay approaches her and asks her after the appointment ends and Beth leaves the office if she would consent to an interview, that she'd really like to tell the details of the story the way Beth would like them to be told. And initially Beth is reticent, but she does eventually agree to submit to the interview. And that's just about as far as I've gotten into the book. I haven't gotten into the interview part yet. There is, when I read the blurb for this book, they were talking about how as the interview goes on, there is some question about whether there's actual real sinister things going on, or if Shay is maybe being manipulated in some way. And just the little bit of reading that I've done so far, I started it yesterday. The little bit of reading I've done so far, it sure seems like there's something sinister going on. But again, I'm a wimp about horror novels. So my sister's the one who really reads all the horror novels, and I mix them in sometimes. Horror, mystery, thriller, I try to put those in, especially like domestic thrillers, people that are really popular like Lisa Jewell and Alice Feeney. I try to work those in when I can because I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. These are not my preferred. You guys know I'm a literary fiction classics kind of girl, but I like to mix these in because otherwise it becomes a little bit dull. So I'm enjoying this so far, but just know if you pick it up based on my recommendation, it is more of a mystery horror. There's definitely mystery, but I think there's definitely going to be some scary parts in this book too. So it is perfect for spooky season. So if you're not a wimp like me, I'm sure you'll be fine. So, all right, the second book that I want to talk to you about is another one that I have going on my Kindle, and It is from 1926, so it is published 99 years ago. So it's quite an old novel. It won the Pulitzer, so that's why I'm reading it. But when I pulled it up on Project Gutenberg, I liked the premise. It sounded good. And then I looked it up on Goodreads and it had fairly decent ratings. I think it's like a 3.6. So it seemed fairly well received when people read it. So far, I'm a couple chapters in, and we meet at the start the Pentland family. They live in New England, and it seems like they haven't had a young person come out to society for a while, so they feel like they're a bit removed from society, and maybe their name is not quite as prominent on the social scene as it has been in the past. But they're hoping that's all about to change. They do have an 18-year-old family member that has just returned from schooling in Paris, and her name is Sybil, and she is ready to be presented to the society. So they are having a ball. So when the story opens, we're at a ball. And of course, I love the sound of that. That sounds wonderful. During the ball, there are also two other people that are kind of showing up on scene. And that would be a woman named Sabine and her daughter, Therese. And we learn that Sabine and Therese also have come in from out of the area, but Sabine was raised in this area. So she spent her time around the Pentland family when she was a child, and she left the area, has raised her daughter someplace else for the last 20 years, and she would like her to be presented to society as well. So the ball is kind of supposed to be focused on these young girls, but Sabine, the mother of Therese, is the one who really catches everybody's attention. She's dressed a little bit differently. She acts a lot different than others. And I can already see the themes of kind of old society not really embracing someone who's doing things differently than the way they've always been done. So the blurb of this book says that everyone is surprised to find that Sabine has returned, not as the pitiable and broken creature they expected, but as a strong and assured individual with an uncanny ability to see through the postures and pretenses of the society that oppressed her as a girl. So I'm just a couple chapters in, and I am enjoying this so far. It's really interesting to hear how different Sabine is from the other folks that are there. So the paperback edition of this book is 312 pages. And again, I'm just moving my way kind of slowly through this one. This will be a good one I can pick up when the sun goes down and I can't read the Book of Cold Cases. So all right, the next book I want to talk to you about is one that I actually do have here with me, and that is The Science of Strength Training. Now, I mentioned on my last recent reads, and I'll just quickly show you, I am working my way through Dr. Gabrielle Lyons' book here, Forever Strong. And the premise, the main theme in this book is that as we age, as humans, we become undermuscled. And a lot of times we think of ourselves as getting fat and sedentary, and that may be partially true, but a lot of it is due to the fact that we start losing muscle in our 30s, and it progresses a higher percentage each year. And once we hit our 70s, it can affect our mobility and our balance and different things like that. So I won't talk too much about this. This one was in my last recent reads, but I did have a few people that reached out and said they were so glad that I was profiling this on the channel because it is an important book. So anyone that's interested in getting a little more fit and healthy, sharing this book with you is really important. This is The Science of Strength Training. And again, this is nonfiction. It is a fantastic book that shows you, as you can see, inside your body to what muscles are you working when you do certain exercises. I found this, I live in the southern states, one of the southern states in the US, and we have a discount outlet called Ollie's. I found this book extremely cheaply at Ollie's. I use this book currently to educate myself on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, when I should inhale, when I should exhale, how this movement should feel. And also just to motivate myself. The pictures in here are amazing. They get me jazzed to go and actually move my body. So again, I got this at Ollie's, but I've seen it on Amazon. And this is a series. They have this for high intensity interval training. They have, yoga, Pilates, stretch, different running. There's one for running and swimming too, I believe, but I like this one. So, okay, the next book that I want to talk to you about is this awesome book. This is another nonfiction book that I'm slowly making my way through. It is called The Book of Alchemy, A Creative Practice for an Inspired Life. And this is by a young woman named Suleika Jaouad. And I was first introduced to Suleika in her memoir, Between Two Kingdoms. This memoir tells the story of Suleika's early life when she was 23. She had graduated from college after being schooled in Paris. She was ready to start her life, and she is suddenly diagnosed with leukemia. And that diagnosis turns into 4 years of treatment. And during her treatment, she starts to write articles chronicling her disease and its treatment for the New York Times. And through those articles, she has people out all over the world that are reaching out to her and communicating with her. So this memoir tracks not only her treatment, but also her healing, and also kind of covers a little bit of what happens on the other side. You had your life planned, a roadblock came and waylaid you for several years. You feel like you're okay to move forward from that. Where do you go from here? And how do you deal with that? And do you still have depression and anxiety and panic when you get labs drawn? Or, after you're technically quote unquote healed, what does that disease do to you as a young person starting your life? And how she decides to tackle all of that she's unsure about is to get in the van, take the dog, and drive around the country and meet some of these people that have reached out to her through her treatment process. So that is where I know her from. Now, her newest book, the memoir is from 2021. This new book is from 2025. I bought this earlier this year. And what this is a series of essays and journal prompts. So the first one is written by Suleika, and the remaining essays are written by other creatives. Now, some of the more famous names that you might know in here are Elizabeth Gilbert, Salman Rushdie, Gloria Steinem, Michael Beirut. I've heard of him before. A lot of different creative folks have entries in this book. And they will write an essay. It's usually a page and a half, maybe 2 pages at the tops. And then they give you a journal prompt. I have always noticed that I journal mostly when I'm having problems. And that's usually, it could be any type of problem. A problem with work, a problem at home, a problem in a relationship. All of those things are really, really good grist for the journaling mill, okay? However, when I don't have problems going on like that, I tend to step away from journaling, which is where a book like this comes in wonderful, because the prompts are making you think about different things in life, whereas my journaling was always focused on problems and working out problems and writing letters I'll never send and all of those different things. This book helps to open you up to a creative practice by getting kind of your creative juices going. So I picked out one of these essays that I could just tell you real quickly about. This essay is called The Art of Dailiness by Michael Beirut. And in this, he talks to us about after 9/11, he found himself as an American and also as a New Yorker a bit lost. And on January 1, 2002, January 1, 2002, he started a 100-day project. And his project was, once a day, every day, I'm going to draw something. I'm going to open the New York Times. I'm going to find a picture in the Times that makes me curious about something or sparks something in me, and I'm going to draw that. And this was before social media, so it was a completely personal project that he did. And through that 100-day project, he turned that into an assignment that he uses in his teaching. And he tells the story in this essay about how it has affected the kids in the class, the young adults that he's teaching. And I really liked this. And the prompt comes at the end. And here's the prompt. Write about a time when you began doing something daily, be it a creative endeavor, a new course of study, or a form of exercise. What prompted you to start it? What obstacles got in your way? When you felt resistance or missed a day, what called you back? Now reflect on what you gained from it and how you might apply that knowledge to a new daily creative practice. So that's the prompt. Now, the prompt is yours to do with what you want, okay? So that might spark some thoughts and get you going a different way, or you can follow the prompt. But books like this can be a really good way to get yourself into journaling, especially if you're curious about it, but you don't want to feel like you're navel gazing and you're always ruminating on your problems or you're ruminating on something else. If you want to start thinking creatively, I'm finding this really, really good. So how I'm approaching this is I'm keeping the book and the journal that I'm writing in on the table side next to the area that I sit on the couch. And on Sunday mornings generally is when I will grab for this. I'll read through it and then I'm going to put my thoughts down. I'm not spending a lot of time on them, and I found it has been a really beneficial practice. So if you're interested in journaling or taking up something more creative, this book might actually be good for you. All right, so on to the books that I finished. So if you watched my previous videos, you know I was reading Tinkers. I started this in September and I was trying to read it along with some other things. And I realized very quickly this book was very heavy and I needed to put it aside until I could get onto it its own. It's 189, give or take a 2 or 3, 191 pages. And this, I have to tell you, will forever be known not as Tinkers, but as my beloved Tinkers. It is my beloved Tinkers. I can't express to you how much I loved this book. I loved it so much that it needs its own video, and I'm going to do that. It's going to have its own focus. I want to talk to you about what I've learned about the author, what his theory of writing is, why he has that theory, who he does it for. And also, I want to share advice with you that he gives to aspiring writers that he teaches on how to write, because I think the advice he gives them is the perfect advice to the reader of this book. And I say that because I was really struggling with this book. And I watched the interview that I'll share with you in the next video. And I thought, okay, I see what he's saying there and I need to do that. And I did, and this was an amazing experience. I can't promise it'll be the same for you. I don't know if it'll hit all the right notes with you, but oh my goodness, I really feel like it's my favorite book that I've ever read. It's definitely hands down. I've had no other reading experience like this book. So really excited to bring you more of that book. And then I listened to an audiobook this week. I Feel Bad About My Neck and Other Thoughts on Being a Woman by Nora Ephron. You may know Nora Ephron. She's a screenwriter. I think she was involved with Silkwood, starring Meryl Streep back in the late 80s. And then, of course, a lot of people know When Harry Met Sally. That was one of her projects as well. So this is a series of essays, and the first one is about her neck. And of course, you have no idea why I would be interested in an essay called I Feel Bad About My Neck, but that's another story. I loved that essay. But that essay was short, and the very next essay was an essay on handbags. And that essay was a little bit longer. And the premise of that essay was talking about handbags that range anywhere from $2,600 to $10,000. And I quickly realized this lady and I have nothing in common. Not that we have nothing in common, but even if I had that kind of money, I don't know that I would be a handbag junkie. And it's not that she was saying she's a handbag junkie, but in her world, this is what's important. So I immediately thought, I don't know, this may not be a good fit for me. But I hung in there and there were essays that I liked. So another one that really stuck out to me was an essay called Maintenance. And of course, it's about aging. It's about maintaining your body, not just your neck, but everything else that goes along with aging as a woman or as a human being. That one was really good. And then the one I really liked, the cherry on top, was called On Rapture. And this is going to resonate with everybody here. I sat on my brand new wide whale corduroy couch and read The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing, the extraordinary novel that changed my life and the lives of so many other young women in the 1960s. I have the paperback copy that I read at the time, and it is dog-eared. Epiphany after epiphany marked so that I could easily refer back to them. I can remember how many times I put the book down, reeling from its brilliance and insights. Cut to a few years later, the couch is covered with purple slipcovers, and I'm reading for pure pleasure. It's The Godfather by Mario Puzo, a divine book that sweeps me off into a wave of romantic delirium. A few years later, I'm divorced. The couch and I have moved to a dark apartment in the West 50s. It's the summer weekend, I have nothing whatsoever to do, and I should be lonely, but I'm not. I'm reading the collected works of Raymond Chandler. So On Rapture talks about how when she gets drawn into a book, that doesn't happen with every read, and it doesn't happen with every other read. But when it happens to her, she would be on set, people would be asking her for design ideas, and she would be like, what? I'm sorry, do you not see that I'm reading here? And I loved that. As someone who is a very passionate reader, that hit home. So overall, I enjoyed the experience. The handbag essay had me really worried, and I wish it hadn't been the second one in, because I almost gave up on the audiobook. I think it would be worth a read for you, especially if you have any issues worrying about aging, or you just want to hear someone riff about it, and especially readers would really love the last essay. So, all right, gang, that's all I've got for you so far today. I'll be back to see you soon. Until we meet again, happy reading.